Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast, and once again we're joined by a very special guest. It is of course Louis Foster. Louis, it's been too long since you were last on the show. We had to invite you back whilst you've got kind of a little bit of time before the season gets absolutely hectic, as we have 6 races in 5 weeks to end of the season. But just generally, how are you doing? What you've been up to in these last couple of weeks since Nashville? And yeah, great to have you back on.
Yeah, no, good to be back on. Honestly, I've been chilling mainly, trying to avoid my phone and avoid talking to the outside world as much as possible. But I mean, training a bit here and there. We've had a bit of sim stuff to go because with the schedule that's coming up, there's a very limited amount of time to actually get in the sim. So I've been on the sim 3 or 4 times in the last 2 weeks. So done a decent amount of that. Outside of that, not a ton really. Just decompressing a little bit and trying to enjoy the summer. I know some people travel, but I've been in Indy the entire time, kind of enjoying the sun here because it's actually been quite warm anyway. So yeah, nothing riveting to be honest with you. But yeah, I that's kind of was the plan, was not to do anything riveting, was to do nothing, which was my perfect idea of 2 weeks off.
And you are now 23 years old. So
yeah,
anything much for your birthday?
Not really. As in like presents wise?
No, like what did you do? Like
my mum, which was great. Which is what I asked for actually. But no, I didn't do a lot. I went around to Christian Rasmussen and his girlfriend came over. I had a few other friends come over to my place and we just had dinner and chilled. So nothing dramatic, no boats, nothing crazy, just a nice day or evening at home.
Now, you say we're getting the very busy stretch of the season. You've got 6 races in 5 weeks, which I don't know how that's happened, but it's pretty ridiculous. So kind of just how do you manage that upcoming stretch? I guess you don't really have a lot of downtime. So kind of how do you balance focusing for individual races? Is it a case of you focus on more on some races than you do others? And kind of just how do you prepare for such a busy stretch of racing where you're effectively going to be non-stop?
Yeah, it's pretty tricky. Even with like sim stuff, for example, I mean, we've bounced around doing Portland, Milwaukee, a bit of DC stuff, which is not scanned, so it's difficult to do, but we've been able to kind of get a lay of the land, and Laguna. It's been busy for sure. I think you just take the weekends as they come. You know, we're not unused to having back weekends. You know, it's we do that quite a lot, and this time we're just adding 1 or 2 extra ones on top of it. So it's going to be unrelenting for sure. There's not a lot of downtime between races. Back-to-backs are always difficult, and especially with the travel for a lot of these. You know, they're not drive-away ones. They're not like we're doing back-to-back of, I don't know, Mid-Ohio and St. Louis, where you can kind of drive back to Indy, and everyone has to, you know, these ones, we're going out west, then we come back, then we go out to DC, then we come back. You know, it is a bit back and forth. So that does make it definitely more difficult, and obviously crossing the border into Canada for one of them. So it's going to add up for sure, and I'm sure by the end of the season, everyone's going to be very much looking forward to the break. But yeah, I think you just take each weekend as it comes. We've done a lot of preparation already, and as much as we can do. I think the blessing in disguise is there's 2 tracks that we actually haven't been to before, so the preparation amount is quite limited to those 2. There's sim work that we've done, but outside of that, it's a bit of a guessing game, really, and you just got to hope that you turn up with the right setup and the right package, because no one knows what to expect, really. So that's a bit of a blessing in disguise for the teams, I think, but we'll have to wait and see.
And I just kind of want to expand on Washington and Markham a little bit more, how they like to drive. If you enjoy driving this track so far, and you've got any kind of rough expectations of what to expect from either race. Obviously, you can't learn too much about it being scanned, as you say.
Markham was scanned. And at first, I thought that they had completely messed up the scan, because when I drove it on the sim at Honda, it was ridiculous. Like, genuinely, I cannot describe how bad it was. There's a part of the track where it's a straight. It's really a straight. You know, you're flat out, but it's got a bit of a curve in it, right? But it's a straight, right? I could not go around that straight flat with the wheel turned because the car would bottom out and spin, right? So I had to like open the steering, let it go over the bump, and then turn again round this bump. So I kind of like wrote it off in my mind of like, oh, you know, it is what it is. Like I think that's wrong. There's no way it's this bad. Then I saw Power. He did a video online.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
Doing it, and it's the same track model, and his car looked completely different. And that made me go from like, oh, the sim's not right to, oh, our setup is not good. Because for him, it looked like he was at IMS and it was lovely and smooth. I mean, it was still bumpy, don't get me wrong, but compared to what we had. So that's definitely made me gulp a little bit. So I'm hoping that we can figure something out. I know the Andretti car is obviously extremely good at street courses, but it was a massive difference. So I'm hoping that we can fix something because it was really bad for us on the sim at least. And then Markham, like I said, there's no laser scanning of it. It's just basically they have the track model correct, I think. But it's just, there's no bumps. It's completely flat. So it's hard to really dig too much into it because there's going to be bumps. And it's like, you can't figure out how stiff you want the car to be. You can't figure out brake bias. You can't even figure out gearing, really. I mean, you can get an estimate, but you can't, if you dig too much into it and try and be too aggressive into learning and developing a car from the sim without the bumps, it's a waste of time. So that was more for just actually learning the circuit, which, to be honest with you, it's not that. It's what, 4 left-handers and 1 right-hander. So, you know, it's not like the hardest track to learn. But it looked cool. It looked like a cool event. I think that would be good fun as well.
Well, when you go into, let's say when you go to a practice session for a track that you've never been to before, like how much of it is you learning the track, but as well as doing setup and race runs and that kind of thing?
I mean, yeah, a big part of it is learning the track, right? I think when you go to circuits you've driven at times like IMS or Barber or Portland or whatever, when you can, you know, within 3 laps, I'm on it and I'm driving the car where it is, right? But when you go to those circuits, yeah, it does take time to learn. And at the end of the day, there's no point in coming in after 4 laps and trying to change the setup because you're not going to be anywhere near the pace yet, right? You still need to build up to it. So it is tricky, but really, the plan usually is to do longer runs, right? It's much more important for the driver. I think it's much more important for the driver to be in a good rhythm than the car set up to be absolutely perfect, but the driver's still a little bit unsure. But at the same time, you're not going to get the car into a perfect window until you're happy as a driver with how you're driving and what the track is and where it's going. So yeah, I would say really the biggest difference is your runs tend to just be a bit elongated at the start and the first practice sessions, and the team allows you a bit more time to just actually get used to the track rather than do short runs and make a lot of changes.
I don't know if you've seen, but they've extended the Washington race distance even more, so it's like 250 miles now. So imagine it's going to be quite a tough one.
Oh, it's 250 miles?
Yep.
Yeah, they're extending the lap count by the 22, so it's 147 laps, 250 miles. It's going to be a long race.
Right, time-wise.
Street course.
Yeah.
I promise you we're not making this up. It was announced about an hour ago.
So, what's your immediate reaction to that? Like, how does that pan out?
I want to hear what that's going to be for time-wise. It was on the sim at least. It was like a 55-second lap, I want to say, roughly.
Okay,
so let me work this
need
out.
to get the calculator out here.
Well, he's math it.
So that's for like a qualifying lap?
Yeah.
So if you say,
so let's say a minute once we average out of pit stops and race pace. No, hang on. No, there'd be 147 minutes if there's averages out 67. So that's 60 seconds a lap. So that's what, 2.5 hours. But that's before you account cautions and other stuff. And we've seen new street courses can be pretty caution-fit.
Well, I mean, personally, I'm a little bit against IndyCar just increasing these lap counts. I don't think it adds anything. I think it just makes... also, this is probably me being a touch lazy. I don't want to be in the car for that much longer. Like, I think the race is already quite long. And I know IndyCar has had a theme the last couple of years to extend these races. Some have had good reason, to be fair. But, like, I don't think I've heard a single driver unhappy about the fact that they decreased the length of the Nashville race, like, because they increased it to 300 and then because we moved it to Monday they decreased it back to 225, and every driver was like, yeah, that's like the perfect amount, because once you get to like 170 it's a lot of laps in, you know. I think the only race that the length is absolutely perfect is the 500 because it's such a enjoyable race as a driver. It doesn't really matter where you are, if you're at the front or the back, like, it's always enjoyable and there's always things going on and it flies by. But I think from a driver perspective, at least from my perspective, increasing these lap counts all the time, I know that they're trying to stop fuel save races, but I think the hardcore fans really enjoy watching that. Like, you know, watching Scott do what he did from like 2018 to 2023 he was always in the race, and sure, it wasn't a flashy overtake or an amazing lap or whatever, but it was just talent and skill. And I think people appreciate that rather than go, "Oh, that's not fair." So I think because there really isn't any fuel save races anymore, really. There's none that are like a real split strategy. There's always a preferred strategy, and then depending on yellows, you can switch off to another one and get lucky or not. So it kind of leans towards, I would say, the more lucky side rather than kind of going into a race and be like, right, we're going to be the best at fuel saving, and if we're the best at fuel saving, we're going to win. So anyway, I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but it makes sense that they're making it 250 miles. And hey, for the one-off race, if it's a lot longer than what we usually do, so be it. It'll be a great event, a great spectacle, and if they want to kind of tie in 250 with 250 miles, it makes sense. So
that's my thinking. That's probably why they've done it. But how hot is it in DC? Do you have any idea? I know we're still a couple of weeks.
I have no idea. I don't think that area is super built up, especially because we're on the what's it called? The big grass. What's it called? The
the Britishness is coming through here.
Like the mall, something mall.
Oh yeah. It's
National Mall.
National Mall. That's it.
If we're on that, I think it's a bit less built up, which does make an impact on temperatures. The front straight is through buildings, but the backside is a little bit more open, which will make a difference. But I mean, I don't know. We at the end of the day, to be honest with you, IndyCar doesn't care if it's hot or not. We have to drive the car, so it doesn't really matter how I feel about it. So, but yeah, I'm sure it'll be a great event either way. I'm really looking forward to it.
Overtaking possible, you think, or difficult?
No, possible. I would say the main braking zone enters the corner beforehand is quite a fast corner, but it's not like really fast. So I think it's actually quite a good middle ground where you can actually gain a bit of time in. And part of the track, there's one part of the track that is like really wide. I think it's the widest track.
Seen this, it's like 4, 5, 6 cars wide or something. They could
you can it's really wide, but I don't think there's. I think there's overtaking opportunity for sure. There's definitely there's places where it's single file for sure, but there's also places where it's really open. So yeah, I think it should be a good race. It's going to be interesting for sure, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised if IndyCar pulls some tricks out the book to try and make it a bit more of a spectacle, because obviously the amount of fans that are going to be watching, and I think that's a good idea. I mean, my idea initially when this race was announced was we make it a bit like the thermal race a few years ago, a non-championship race, but we have a behind the scenes push to pass master who has gives each car push to pass per lap depending on who they want to give it to. And don't make no points. It doesn't enter the championship. It's a one-off race, but just make it the most insane race ever, because that's when we have so many fans watching that are new fans as well. You kind of reel them in. That was my idea. No one took it seriously, but I thought it was a good idea.
I think it works better at the White House than it does some random country club in the middle of nowhere. So
funny, wouldn't it? Just one guy per lap randomly gets pushed to pass.
It's like Formulary's fan boost or whatever they used to do.
Yeah, like a fan boost type thing, but they would. I don't know if you would hide it somehow. But and I think all the real fans would know it's just a BS spectacle race. But any fan that's watching it, instead of watching potentially a procession, which it could be, but it might not be. Who knows? It's actual proper racing the entire time, and there's always action, and I think that's what would captivate viewers more than a procession, which IndyCar can be a procession sometimes. Simple as that.
Who did you tell this idea?
I think I told Doug. I think.
Okay.
I don't
nice.
remember. I'll have to. Maybe he'll see this and tell me no, you didn't say that. But it was more of a joking thing. I knew it was never going to happen.
Well,
it was a safety
maybe
risk.
in future.
Yeah,
maybe in the future.
Maybe if I one day ran IndyCar, I would do it.
There we go. Listen, got to get this next one out of the way. The team is downsizing. You're obviously under a multi-year contract, so I know there's obviously a lot of talk about whatever, but are you going to be with RLL next year? What is just your position on that at this moment in time?
Well, I've heard nothing from the team about that, really. I mean, we discussed the downsizing of the two cars, sorry. maybe a week before it came out because I heard it, rumors from people, and then I spoke to the team about it, and yeah, they told me that this is what we're doing, and this is what we're doing with dry random, which from my perspective, I thought was always the right decision. To be honest with you, from the plan honestly was to run 2 cars this year anyway. The reason they didn't is A, Mick, and B, they were worried that if they didn't run the car, they would lose the charter. And at that point, I don't think there was anyone who was looking to buy a charter per se. So they ended up running a 3rd car. But I'd always thought that it was the best decision to be 2 cars. I mean, you look at the team's history, and this has been brought up a lot, is when it was 2 cars, it was running the best. Plus, to be blunt, that 3rd car has taken a lot of resources all year. Mick's had a difficult year. I don't think he's met the expectations he wanted to meet. And that's pulled a lot of resources from the other cars to try and boost him up. I mean, currently we don't have a head engineer because Mick's got him, which is, I think, pretty detrimental to the team. So it's been a bit of a struggle bus this year, to be honest with you. But yeah, as you said, I mean, I've got a contract in place, and yeah, I don't see anything changing.
You mentioned Mick. I remember we last spoke to you, or you were getting bombarded with questions about Mick. So when did that end? Are we through that phase now? Or the questions about you rather than your teammate?
Yeah, I mean, I think people obviously love to bring it up, and he's obviously a big name in the sport now. But yeah, they've mainly, I think, stopped. I don't know, for whatever reason. But maybe it's because I haven't been asked many questions this year because we've had such a horrid year. But it's been a tough one for us this year. I mean, the reasons I just explained, that really is what it boils down to. It's been difficult.
So, I mean, we've discussed this for a while, me and Dan, about the fact that it seemed like the 3rd car has been uncompetitive, or maybe that the presence of the 3rd car has kind of impacted the kind of wider kind of operation. So, like, I guess just to ask you that question, like, what has the impact been of running that 3rd car, or maybe what will the benefit be? Maybe that's the best way to frame it. What will the benefit be of kind of just getting rid of that 3rd car and just focusing the resources? Like, just what's your view on that? I know you've kind of touched on a bit there, but
yeah. Well, firstly, I've heard this before, and I don't understand why this is a common thought of what the team's doing, that the 3rd car is uncompetitive. I would honestly, especially this year, push in the latter. I mean, the amount of resources Mick's had to perform is way outweighs what I've got, really, if I'm being blunt. Because they want him to do well. Of course they do. They want him to succeed. They want him to do a good job, and then they want the team to move forward. And Mick's been a great asset in a lot of ways. But running that 3rd car, in my opinion, has been a detriment to the team. And the team knows this. That's why the decision has been made to get rid of it. So, yeah, I think for me, it opens up. Firstly, it means that we get a head engineer back, which will be nice. To have an overseeing engineer rather than 3 engineers doing their own thing, which is quite simply unacceptable at this level. To be honest with you, but obviously there's been circumstances that have led us to make these decisions. And I would say it condenses things down. When we hired Mick, there wasn't a team ready for him, really. They had to pull out of the 45 car. They had to pull out the 15 car. We had to hire people in. I mean, a lot of the hires on Mick's car are McLaren guys, especially the mechanics. Most of those guys came from McLaren, which has caused some separation issues within the team, because you've got one crew that's all knows each other from McLaren, and then you've got the other 2 crews that have been at RLL for years and years and years. And, there's ego in racing, which, you don't want there to be. You want it to be a team unit, but at the end of the day, there is going to be a little bit of friction there. So, I think I think it's the correct decision to go down to 2. It condenses what we've got, because we have some talented people for sure. Like, it's no doubt about that. It's not that we have an issue that we've got really bad hires and there's not any talent. There's loads of talent under our umbrella, but I just think that people are pulled too far apart to be able to utilize what they've got because they're being stretched so thin. So that's my 2 cents, but obviously, clearly, the team's in agreement based on the decisions they've made.
I guess you kind of touched on it a minute ago, but kind of just maybe expand a little bit more on kind of what your just reflections are generally of the season so far. Now we're kind of 2/3 of the way through the season. Kind of, was it maybe as big of a step forward as you hoped kind of at the end of Nashville last year? Just kind of give us your general thoughts on what the proceedings so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not happy, really. I mean, we've had some good top 10s. We've had some really, really solid races where I felt really good. I think our biggest positive this year is we actually race really well now. I will say that. You know, we've had some really solid results in the races. We've gone forward more than we've gone backwards in races, which is a stark difference from last year. The issue is we can't qualify up front anymore. We've just lost that ability overnight. I don't understand why. And that's really been our Achilles heel. You know, there's been certain events where we probably should have been fine for the podium. IMS is the easiest one to pinpoint when I had to go off at turn 1 to avoid that wreck, and that ultimately put me down quite far back, and I caught my way back up to wherever I did. I think it was P7. But it just put me far enough back that I got out of cycle and stuff. Yeah, I think that's my main analysis of the year, is that we just haven't been able to qualify as well as we have. And you know, I think that with the change to 2 cars next year, there'll be a better support structure around not only my car but the team as a whole. Because right now I do feel like we're a bit on our own. We're just kind of, it's me and my engineers against the world. You know, it's not really, it makes it difficult. So I think next year, if we can really dial in on some of those things and really understand why we've struggled this year in qualifying, because I'm driving the wheels off it every weekend, and that's kind of where we end up. So I'm confident in the next couple of races. You know, we've got some solid chances. The team can be quick at Portland. We were quick there last year. We can be quick at Laguna, and then we've got 2 new street courses coming up that, you know, it can be a twin cost. I mean, obviously Andretti are very dominant on street courses, sorry. But because they're brand new, you can luck into a great setup. You know, there's not these years of history where, you know, there's going to be a pecking order per se. You know, you can luck into a good setup and just get it right, and others can just get it wrong, and that's a good chance for us. So we've got chances to try and finish the year out strong, and that's all I'm focused on right now, is doing that. Because, yeah, fundamentally, my goal this year was to get a podium. And whilst we've had chances isn't good enough in my eyes. So, you know, we want to make sure we do that before the year's up.
So I kind of just want to touch on what you've said there about almost being a little bit out on an island. Like, how do you feel, you know, because you obviously lack the seniority yourself, only being your 2nd year. Like, how do you feel like having a year like this, maybe in the fullness of time, will maybe not benefit you, but like, what are some of the things that you've maybe learned from this year, having those sorts of challenges? Like, in what ways has it maybe tested you in terms of feedback that you're able to give at this stage in your career? Like, just kind of on that front, like, do you see positives that may come from a difficult situation like this?
For sure. At the end of the day, you don't learn anything winning. You know, you learn more losing. So we've lost a lot this year, and I'm very aware of that. But we've learned a lot, and we learned a lot last year, and the proof is in the results of the races this year. You know, I've been able to match Graham, who is extremely talented in the races. Extremely talented. He's a great racer. And you know, he's had some events where he's been absolutely rapid, and quite simply, I haven't. And for whatever reason, which I won't get into, you know, we've struggled. But you know, the ones where on a plain field, we've been pretty similar on pace in the races, which last year I just simply wasn't. I didn't have the experience, I didn't have the understanding of the tires, I didn't have the understanding of the races, all those things. So that's one thing that I've learned from last year to this year. And this year, it's honestly probably more about just digging deeper, because the pace is there when it's all right. It's just not all right very often, to be honest with you. You know, we either qualify at the back and go forward, or, well, actually, that's pretty much it. We haven't really, if we've ever qualified up front, we've finished up front, usually. But we just haven't had that last little bit to push us over the edge. And I think that's where I'm starting to understand where that needs to come from, which is working a lot closer with the engineer, which I've always been doing. But This year, I've definitely dug into the setups of the car a lot more and trying to understand the differences in the setups between our cars and understand the decision making behind that. That's definitely something that I've been a lot more in tune to this year because I feel like I need to be. Especially as I said before, with the lack of support around us, I feel like I have to kind of be a voice in that a bit more than maybe I shouldn't need to be. But there's been a lot of different things here and there. It simply just hasn't really gelled for us this year, for whatever reason. But yeah, there's definitely positives. There always is. There's always things to learn from, and if someone says there isn't any positives from losing, then they're an idiot because they're not looking in the right way.
I'm kind of intrigued about this qualifying a little bit more. So do you feel like you're driving better, worse, the same, just the car just feel different to how it did a year ago? Like, does anything feel different at all? Is it just other teams have got better? Like, how's that fanned out?
I just think it's a lack of off-season development, and I think maybe we're doing something wrong with the tires, but I don't know what. That's the part that's difficult for me, is because we have got better in the races. Our race pace has gotten better. Now, I've gotten better as a driver for sure in the races, because the biggest deficit I had last year wasn't driving a car on a lap fast. I'm doing that my whole career. It's been driving over a stint, over a race distance, pit stops, fuel, tires, all that. That's what I've gotten better at. So there's been improvements on that side from my end, and that's probably why we see, at least I see results where I actually go forward in races rather than backwards. I actually haven't looked at my stats this year, but I would not be surprised if my finishing position is lower than my starting position. Are you going to fact check me here?
Louis Foster, races 12, start position 15.9, finishing position 16.2. So it's, but that's probably.
Yeah, last year was like average starting position like 12.
I can find you this as well. Are you talking like across? Are you talking road courses generally, or like
just across the season?
Last year was starting position was 13.5. Yeah, so last year you were losing 4.4 positions a race. This year it's minus 0.3, but that includes the retirements and stuff. So I don't know how many retirements you have this year, but
one at Phoenix, I think. Right?
Yes, looks like it.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, we got on better in the race. That's a fact.
Got a bit distracted there.
I think because we're still going backwards technically by less than a position on average, but I've definitely been in races this year and felt like a lot more in control, and like I had something to do rather than holding position and just trying my best to hold on to what I've got, right? So to answer your question in a very loop around way with qualifying, no, I haven't lost the ability to drive a car fast. It doesn't go overnight. You know, I have the same procedure that I had last year. I do the exact same things. You know, we're trying different things here and there to see if we can figure out why it's not working for us. But, you know, simply we just haven't had that ultimate pace. And, you know, if I knew what it was, we would have fixed it by now. That's the thing. So I have ideas of what it could be. Like I said, I feel like maybe we're doing something wrong with the tires, because that makes more sense to me with like maybe it's pressures or preparation of the tires. I'm not sure. We've dug into it a bit, but we haven't really seen anything massively different. So yeah, it is confusing and it is annoying, because I think if we were able to just match what we had last year with qualifying and then have the exact same race ability we have this year, we'd be so much higher up in the standings, and probably we would have been knocking on a few more podiums as well. You know, but simply put, it just hasn't been there. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just maybe a bit of lack of development in the off season. That must be the only answer that we need to work on for next year, for sure. Hard in the off season to understand that.
And kind of on that off-season point, we obviously saw, you know, there were quite a lot of new personnel came in, whether that was to support Mick, whether that was kind of a few leadership figures. You had Gavin Ward, obviously. So I know the team in the past few years has maybe struggled a little bit with kind of instability, but do you feel like things have like stabilized with some of the new people that have come in? Like, do you feel like we are seeing any benefits of that at the moment? Kind of what are the foundations that maybe some of the additions have laid? And I know obviously it was the first off season that Jay had as well. So Are you seeing an impact?
To be blunt, not yet. I think there has been positives, but there's also been negatives throughout the year. Again, we've had a lot of movement within the team with the 47 car, and that's moved things around a lot, and it's definitely been unsettling in areas. Other areas are fine, but in certain areas it's been a challenge, because it doesn't just impact that car; it impacts all of us, right? So that's difficult, right? Gavin was, we turn up to Phoenix, obviously, and Mick and Graham had a great Phoenix, at least qualifying, right? We had our own issues in Phoenix and it just didn't click for us. And to be honest, the ovals haven't really clicked as well as they did last year for me this year so far. But I think we're coming out of that now. I felt much better. The first time I felt good on the oval this year was Nashville, so we're coming out of a strong one for us at least, or stronger, I would say. But we did the Phoenix one, and we were like, wow, this is amazing. Then we turn up to the next oval, we're nowhere again. And it's like, why are we fast at Phoenix then? And now we suck on qualifying, because we did suck. St. Louis, I think by lap 10, we were running 25th, 24th, and 22nd. It was kind of back to the old ways. So, that's a bit confusing for me. I don't really understand why this pendulum swung so much, and it hasn't really changed since then, really. I mean, Graham had a horrendous time in Nashville. I think he hated every single lap out there. And he's not shy to say that. Mick had a decent race. I think by the time we got to the race, me and Mick were quite happy with our cars. But by the time the race came, so I think that was good. But yeah, Gavin being part-time has been a bit difficult. He's kind of here and there. I think he has a lot of great knowledge and he's a super talented guy, but I think the part-timeness of it makes it difficult really to make a huge impact on the team. So if I'm honest, that's the difficulty with it, and I know that was one of the key reasons we were able to hire him in the first place, is because he wants to spend more time with his family, I believe, which I fully understand. But, for a team that needs that leadership, and needs someone to really grab the ball by the horns. And I think that's what the team doesn't really have right now, is someone grabbing the ball by the horns, which, from my understanding, at least, I understand why they don't want to do that, because I think previous iterations of the team before I joined had that kind of style, at least, of running the team. And from at least what I've heard, it wasn't a good idea, and it didn't pan out well. So it's hard to say. Look, at the end of the day, I drive the car and I see a lot of what goes on at the team behind the scenes, and I have my own opinions on what should be changed and what should be done. But I have never run a team. Simple as that. I've seen great teams be run. I've raced with amazing race teams, whether it be Andretti or Motor Park or Double R Racing or whatever, and they all have different ways of doing things, and they're all fast. So is there a one-size-fits-all? No. I think there will be more additions to the team in the off-season. There'll be more changes. But I think the fact that we're going down to 2 cars is a massive positive, and that will make the biggest difference, really.
Have you felt the same issues on ovals this year as last year? I think you've mentioned kind of with the rear of the car, or have maybe some of the struggles changed? Like, has it been a mystery? Like, what's the feeling?
Not really, to be honest with you. We had a big meeting about it at the start of the season, with Gavin kind of explaining from a driver's perspective what we struggle with on ovals, and it is, again, rear sensation in the car. And we don't. It's still an issue. It's something that I'm honestly at this point just learning to accept, because I don't know what the fix is. There are things that help. There have been changes we made this year that have made a difference for sure. But clearly there is something that other teams are able to do that we can't. I would say it's more of the same issues, really. I think at times the actual just ultimate pace of the car has actually been better, but the feeling and the sensation and the confidence of the car, for me at least this year, has not improved. And that's, on the ovals, you need to feel confident. If you want to run the highline, if you want to take the risks, it's already uncomfortable taking those risks. If you're in a car that you're not comfortable with, it makes it so damn hard to do anything about it, because you don't know. You can go and try and do a move, and before you can even blink, you're backwards in a wall. So it makes it hard, but like I said, it's gone to the point where I'm kind of having to just drive around at this point.
And I guess kind of following on from that Indianapolis 500 campaign, year 2 for you, kind of generally, how was it? It seemed like you had a pretty quiet month, maybe relative to others. How beneficial was having experience coming into Indianapolis for year 2? Just tell us kind of a little bit about your month of May.
God, it was so long and I've forgotten. Well, that probably sums it up, doesn't it? Really? Forgetful, I guess. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't. Where did I even finish? Do you know?
21st, I think.
Yeah, great. Yeah, clearly not very good. Yeah, I think I don't actually remember much about it. There's been so much that happened since.
Well, I didn't either, and I'm trying to come up with the question. So
it clearly wasn't that good. If we finished 21st or 22nd, wherever it was.
I think you hosed on strategy a little bit. You didn't hit under that money yellow where all the leaders did.
You know more than I do, and I did the race. So there you go. Yeah, obviously it was one to forget. I think we made some progress in certain areas, but obviously the result last year was 12th or whatever it was, and this year was 20 whatever. So
and last year you had the penalties, didn't you, where you said you would have finished?
I did have the penalty. No, the race car for sure last year was much better. I remember watching the onboard of last year after like Carb Day. And just watching how much closer I was running and how much more confident I was in my car last year than this year. And that was really what made it up for us. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, we just had massive washouts on the exits all day. It was just horrible to drive. Yeah, I remember. Okay. Yeah, no, it didn't click for us. Again, I hate using the word "didn't click" because that doesn't really give any kind of insight. But I remember I watched the car, the onboard from 25. And yeah, I was much more aggressive. I was able to be much closer. I was much happier with the car. Whereas this year, yeah, it was difficult to drive, very difficult to drive. I think even Takuma was very unhappy with the car this year. And usually he can drive around pretty much anything. But, yeah, we just didn't, as a team, didn't manage to get the setup in the right area for us. Simple as that.
We've now been a month of May at an Indianapolis 500. We've obviously got to experience it a little bit. So kind of from a driver's perspective, maybe what is your favorite thing about the month of May? Maybe just outside the car, and do you kind of have anything that you don't like about the experience as a whole?
Honestly, no. There's nothing I don't like about it. I think there's
good.
Really, everything's really unique to I mean, IndyCar without the 500 is a hollow shell. We all know this. We want it to get to a point where it's not, but the simple matter of the fact that is our magnus opus, right? That is the race of the year. And that's not a surprise to anyone me saying that. And the fan interaction at the track, but also away from the track. Not that like there's tons of fans everywhere. It's more just like everyone knows that it's going on. I could be in a random coffee shop and I hear someone talking about it during May. It's such a massive event in Indy in May. And everyone's just super excited to see the racing. I don't think that there's any real negatives about it. From my perspective, at least, the weather maybe could be the only thing. The fact that we often get rain delays and it's a lot of waiting. But they do a good job of each day being entertaining, not only from a fan perspective, but also for drivers. Every day. I don't like testing. You can ask anyone that's been with me throughout my career, ever since I was a kid, didn't like testing. I think going and pounding laps around a track for no reason is useless. So when I first heard about how much testing you do for the 500, I was like, oh, really? That much? Since then, I now realize that not only is it very necessary, but also it's actually really fun to do, and I really enjoy it. Any other track, I would hate it. I wouldn't want to go and test for 7 days for Barber. I would cry. But for that race, the testing is really fun. They build it in a really great way. It builds up to Fast Friday and qualifying, and then you get your carb days where you're kind of almost a little bit relieved because you've made it in, and then you've got those days where now you, instead of doing qualifying runs, you're now doing setups for the race, and you're racing other cars. You're trying to get close and trying to understand how we can get closer and follow closer and be more competitive. So it really is a super technical, from a driver's perspective, just very technical. And that is quite enjoyable because there isn't a really race as technical as that. There are, obviously, IndyCar racing is a very technical sport. I've learned that after doing 1 weekend in NASCAR trucks. It's very different. But that whole month is just out the wazoo of engineering. And that's really what I find enjoyable about it. But no, I love the event. I will cherish every time I have the luxury of being able to do it.
And this was a question asked by somebody that I know to do with the month of May. Now, there used to be loads of pranks between drivers, primarily led by Colton Herter. Still happen? You're shaking your head. So
everyone's got kids now.
But you don't.
No, I don't. No, I don't. Yeah, someone else mentioned this. I know someone else did because I'm seeing their words now. But the 500 lot for the drivers is kind of like a daycare nowadays. You know, either there's kids running around, and again, this isn't a negative thing at all. It's great. Like I love seeing all the kids running around. It's very wholesome that there's families here enjoying it, and you know, people get to bring their families to what you know. Graham gets to have the luxury of having all three, or I guess technically all four of his girls, his three daughters, and his wife watch him race, and I'm sure that's a very fulfilling thing for him. But it's definitely calmed down from what I've been told. Obviously, I wasn't in IndyCar when this stuff happened. I don't know of any pranks that have happened, but there wasn't anything really. I wasn't like, oh, I need to lock my door. I wasn't worried someone was going to come in and do something because it just hasn't really. I don't know how. I think everyone's grown up a lot and is more mature, and I just think that the younger drivers, I don't really want to go and mess with someone's RV because I don't know if they're just going to get actually upset about it. Because there are some people that are sensitive. There are some drivers that will genuinely be very upset about it and like won't see the funny in it at all. But there are some that will, but there are some that are a little bit weird with those kind of things. So I don't know. I think people have maybe grown up a little bit, and I just think that the grid as a whole has aged. There are still a lot of young people in it, but I think your main guys are a bit older now to the point where they're like, I don't really want to play around messing about with someone's RV. I've got to cook dinner for my wife and kids. Do you know what I mean? So that's my opinion of it, at least. Maybe I'm completely off the mark here. Maybe there's things happening that I don't know about between drivers, but I had heard nothing of the sort.
Who's most likely to restart this shenanigans?
It wouldn't be me, if I'm honest with you. But if I had to pick someone, gosh, I don't know. I feel like Daly would be one. I feel like he would do something.
He used to be involved in it quite a lot, didn't he? So
he's, you know, because he's. I think he's mature enough to have a good joke, established enough in the sport that I feel like he wouldn't be nervous about doing it. Whereas if you don't want to be the rookie that comes in and messes with someone's RV because now you feel like a joke. So I think he would match the description of someone that would do it. Whereas everyone else that's kind of his standard or his age, I guess, or level of experience in IndyCar, they've all got wives and kids, and you know, you don't want to bust into someone's RV when you know they're away, but you don't know who else is in their RV and what they're doing or what's happening. Like, you know, you don't want to scare the kids. So, but I would say probably Daly.
Nice. Just last thing on your season specifically, positive, not another negative. So, breakthrough top tens, obviously, road course and the street course. I know this is going back a couple of months now, but a couple of 7th place finishes. Like your rookie year, like did it weigh on you not having those sorts of results at all? Like was it like when that happens, is it a weight lifted, or is that purely like a cliche that people say and it doesn't actually mean that much?
No, I mean, it definitely meant something to get a top 10 for sure. It has less significance than it has in Formula One, let's say, right? It's not like you need to be top 10 to get points. So from that perspective, it doesn't mean as much. I mean, obviously the points it's a decent haul of points for us for where we are on the championship, right? So the top 10 is a good amount of points. So either way, it's positive. But, you know, quite simply, I'm at a point now where now that I have the top 10 at least, I now look back at it and go, right, well, top 10 is now an expectation, right? Which, to be honest with you, it was from the start of the year anyway. I thought it was ridiculous we didn't have a top 10 last year. We had so many chances to, but we always just like fumbled it and always, you know, ruined it. You know, we had, God, how many fast sixes last year?
I mean,
let's get the stats page up.
Road courses, I know you were in the Fast 12, all bar Portland. So
yeah. So
that
you know,
kind of plays out.
It was always just like a disappointment? How are we not able to? So anyway, yes, definitely positive that we've been able to get those results. I think the IMS top 7 was more than expected. Obviously, that was one where I felt like I should have been being able to challenge for the podium had I just, if I started one place further backwards, I wouldn't have had to avoid that crash, right? So that was one where, and we had solid pace throughout the race. You know, we were quick, and I felt really good about how I managed tires that race, and everything about that was positive from my perspective, at least. So that one was like, okay, 7th was like a little bit disappointing, honestly, but I was glad that we got it. Detroit was an awesome race. I loved it. You know, we would have finished higher up had that yellow knot come out at the end, and people got lucky with it. Obviously, got grand podium, which is great for the team, but also bumps me down a few spots. So there's a bit of like a devil and angel where it's like, okay, glad team's got a podium, but damn it, I've lost spots here. You know, so. And that was a really good race. I really enjoyed it. I was aggressive. I raced my way there on pace. I was pushing the leaders along. Like, it wasn't like I was backing up the rest of the pack. I was trying to catch, I think, Dixon at certain points, and O'Ward, I think, maybe. I forget who it was now. But, you know, cars that, as a team, we struggle with week in, week out to try and compete with, and we were. So it was a really fulfilling race for me. I really enjoyed that race. So yeah, no, happy with those, sure. Content maybe is the better word. But like I said, my goal this year wasn't a top 10. My goal was a podium. And it still is, you know. And like I said earlier, we have chances to do it. And I'm working damn hard to make sure we do, because this year is a failure, simple as that, without a podium. You know, I hate being there just to be there. And every driver says this. I know it's not like a wow, but like, that's a simple fact. There's no one's here to fuck spiders.
Never heard that one before.
Saw that from Australians. Sorry, it's an Australian.
That makes
Nice.
sense. Let's look more towards the future. Obviously, your current deal should take you through to 2028, which means you will hopefully race the IR28. So, your thoughts on it within the first week of it being announced?
Well, I saw photos of Rossi driving it, right? And I was looking at the photos and I was like, it could be the shutter speed of the camera they used, but it looked like he's on slicks in the rain. And I wasn't sure. So I texted him, I was like, did they put you on slicks in the rain? And he was like, yep.
With one car.
So one car, no spare parts. And I was like, that's really intelligent of them. I don't know why, because the next day, Polo went out with wets on. So I'm really confused. Anyway, it made me laugh and it wasn't like a little bit wet. Like, he was driving through puddles with slicks on. Interesting decision. I don't know why they did that, but they did. The car looks sick. It's the first time I saw it. I didn't actually ever get to see any of the initial renderings or what. I never actually saw it up until when actually everyone saw it. But it looks awesome. It looks kind of how I expected it to look. Obviously, it's designed by Dallara. Dallara's had a certain design philosophy of all of their single seasons over recent years, and it was obviously going to follow that kind of design. But they've done a really good job of keeping it IndyCar. You know, it's got the fenders or side skirts, whatever you want to call them, for the wheels to stop the interlocking, which is a very IndyCar thing, which I think is a great thing for IndyCar. It makes the racing harder and safer. You know, the halo's integrated well. Apparently there's more cooling, as what Alex had mentioned was the biggest thing he noticed was driver cooling, which is obviously nice for all of us. I love the fact that we have the panels back in. I believe they were taken out because it didn't work properly before. Now we have the technology to make it work properly, which is awesome. I think that's a great thing to have. Do I think it's going to rival Formula One in speeds? No, it's not. You know, but it's going to be a really, really good jump for the series. It's going to refresh it. It's going to level the playing field, especially with the lack of development for dampers and it being a true spec car. That will decrease the amount of money teams going to be throwing at dampers, which will only tighten up the field. You know, initially it will be more spread out for sure, but as years go on, it will tighten up the field because there's just going to be less difference in. There's less things you can change, right? So it's just the dampers are not going to be as much of a difference. Which, for me, where I'm at with RLL, and we struggle with the damper development, we just don't have the resources to spend what top teams are spending. That's a positive for us. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think I don't know what the downforce numbers are. I haven't. No one's come out with that yet, or there's no notice of that. And it also wasn't in the dry, unfortunately, the testing. So and they didn't have a new engine in yet either. So I don't know what it's going to be like lap time wise. If I had to guess, I would imagine it would be like, I don't know. I would say we would do like a couple seconds a lap faster, which is noticeable as a driver.
I think, there were some unofficial lap times from the road course, about 1:12. That's not pushing, and it being pretty damp as well. And I think that was like 3 seconds off pole time already without doing performance runs or anything. So
it will be fast. It looks like it has more downforce. I mean, the rear wing looks really wide, but doesn't have a ton of angle in it, which is the part that usually is more efficient. But the front wing is huge. So obviously they're going to aero balance it. So the front wing 100% has more downforce than the current front wing on the IndyCar. So the rear wing must do. I don't know how much ground effect it's going to have or how much the diffuser is going to play an impact. I know the floor is wider and thinner. Not an engineer, so I don't actually know what that does regarding downforce for the floor. But yeah, at the end of the day, it looks like it's going to have more downforce. It's going to be lighter and it's going to have more power. So it is going to feel great, I'm sure. So I can't wait to get my hands on it and drive it.
And there is an update to the hybrid as well. That's now going to be integrated at least. I know you absolutely love the hybrid. I know everybody loves the hybrid, apart from Pillow. He obviously hates it. But yeah, like we've never asked you this question. I know, like over our chats, you've kind of hinted at the fact that you are not a big fan of the hybrid. But like, what are the big problems that you like? This isn't talking about the current hybrid system that you've kind of identified with it. That everyone always talks about hating it. Like, what are the problems?
I think the fact that they're doing it properly is fine, right? It's the way racing's going these days. You know, at the end of the day, hybrid energy and the way the way the engine actually works and how it takes back that energy and like it's really cool. It's a really cool engineering feat at the end of the day. Like it is. Obviously, manufacturers want to have that because obviously this is pushed by Honda, right? They wanted to have hybrid in IndyCar. And I think the issue simply, and I think that pretty much everyone will agree, is that it was rushed with this current car. The car wasn't built for it. The chassis wasn't built for it. It was done pretty poorly and pretty rushed. And I think IndyCar should have been able to hold their ground a bit more and be like, all right, we hear you, Honda or Chevy or whoever exactly wanted to have the hybrid in, but it was more Honda from my understanding. We hear you. But we can't just throw a hybrid unit in a car that hasn't had the design developed for it, right? We have to have a new car first, which would please Honda knowing it's coming. But I think that's the issue with the current hybrid is that it was thrown in a car that it wasn't designed for. So it's inefficient. It's really heavy. It causes more problems than it fixes. And it doesn't add anything to the sport. That's the thing. Like, oh, wow, we get a new little hybrid thingy. Oh, he's used 2% hybrid. Wow. No one cares. It's useless, right? So that's the thing with the current one. Now, I'm very excited to see what they've done with the new one because they've actually had time to integrate it and develop it properly. If they've integrated and developed it properly, I don't see why it should be a negative, right? It doesn't, there are some, I remember watching LMP1 back in the day when it was Porsche was in it with the 919 tribute and it was Porsche and Toyota back when the LMP1 cars were LMP1 cars, not boats, what they are nowadays, right? And my God, they were absolutely rapid with those hybrid engines. Like, I remember driving them on simulators, and as soon as you ran out of hybrid, it was like, where's the power gone? It's disappeared. But they were so damn fast. And I think if you do it right, it can be really cool because you can get so much torque from electricity that you just can't get from an engine. And if you do it right, it elevates the entire product. So I'm hoping that's what they've done, but I don't know. Obviously, I haven't driven it yet, and no one's driven the new hybrid because it wasn't in the car. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure that IndyCar knows they need to get it right because if they don't, it's going to be even more backlash. And we've seen what a bad hybrid system has done to Formula One this year, and we know that we need to get it right. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it's been integrated in a way that elevates the series rather than checks a box for it.
I'll be blunt, and this kind of talking about the hybrid. Like and I don't know how much you see of this, obviously, because you're driving the races, but road and street course races this year, barring races that have been chaotic, have not been great by IndyCar's kind of high standards. Is it purely the hybrid that you think is kind of killing the product there? What else may be at play? Because there's definitely, and it correlates with when the hybrid came in, been kind of a downturn in just the action that IndyCar's known for on road and street courses. Mysteriously, everything's got better on ovals with the added weight. I'm not sure why, but like, what's at play on road and street courses, and is it just the hybrid?
I don't think I'm the right person to ask that question to, because I haven't driven the IndyCar racing wise without the hybrid.
Yeah,
so
that's fair enough.
I wouldn't feel super comfortable commenting on that because I don't think I have the correct answer. You may be right. Like I said, I don't really know. The ovals, I would put that down more to the Highline stuff we've been doing.
Yeah, okay.
I think the hybrid has made it obviously more difficult to drive the cars, just based on my very low understanding of physics. But I think that, the way at the back makes it more difficult to set up the car, makes it more on edge and more on a pendulum for sure. But which means that people are struggling more than others at times with the car, which makes the delta between pace different. But I think on the ovals, it's more to do with the Highline. And there's definitely been a change in driving style on the ovals because of that. I mean, look what Rasmussen does every race, right? And then, like I said, road street course, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the racing's decent. Has it been more chaotic? I will also say this. I do think that the driver field and ability is higher than it's ever been. And that's just a fact. I mean, there's very few drivers in IndyCar nowadays that haven't got here on merit. Whereas if you go back 10 years ago, there were amazing drivers in the series, but it wasn't as competitive as it is today, without a doubt. And I think anyone that disagrees with that is lying to themselves. So I think that's a part of it as well, is even the guys in the teams at the back, I mean, really, really solid drivers. And I just think that gap's closed up so much that people tend to just, there's not as much, people make less mistakes. They don't do dumb things. They're clever, intelligent drivers that have won championships, that have won races, that have been in different series. So I just think that there's also that at play where people are driving less of, now let's see what happens in the next two, because there are a lot of people who have contracts up and need to prove things. So I wouldn't be surprised if you say this now and then commentators curse the next two races are going to be absolute hell. So we'll see. But if you think it's hybrid, I would ask someone who's driven both, and they might actually have an answer on that, because I don't.
Fair enough. I guess just to maybe reframe it, like, do you feel like the hybrid has been a kind of an assistive overtaking tool? Like, is it something that you feel has helped overtaking at all?
It doesn't. It doesn't help at all. It's. I mean, some people might say if you use it really smartly, you can But the thing is, any straight where you would overtake anyone usually anyway, you use everyone uses the hybrid out of anyway, because you get it so often. So really, all you're doing is you're just having to hit a button all the time, and it's annoying because you take your hand off the wheel, hit the button, hit the button, hit the button. So it's not like I'm saving up hybrid to try and overtake someone. I think it played a lot more at the 500 at times, and some of the ovals maybe. But I'm trying to think of a time where I would save hybrid to use it. But usually you've got, every braking zone, you've usually got majority of your charge back anyway. So if you're going to go for an overtake, you hit the hybrid. But at the same time, if someone thinks they're about to get overtaken, they'll use it as well. So it's kind of it equals out. So no, it's not enough of a boost, and it's not and it's too often to the point where it actually isn't often used in that way. Now, maybe that's why Tyler's winning everything and I'm doing it wrong, but I'm very surprised because it really isn't that much extra horsepower. It's on average 3 to 4 tenths of a second a lap, and you hit it 3 or 4 times. So it's a tenth is what it's worth. Whereas push to pass is much bigger, much bigger.
Let's speak about the racing series, which is the least chance of ever implementing a hybrid. NASCAR Truck Series, obviously mentioned it earlier. How was the experience at Lime Rock Park? Just tell us a little bit about that.
A lot of fun, really fun. I will definitely be doing a race again soon. Well, not soon, but when they go back to a road course. I wouldn't be against an oval, but I feel like it makes more sense for us to do a road course. But it was great, honestly. As I've said a lot, I've always wanted to give it a go. It lined up, obviously, drop light, worked quite closely with Spencer Boyd and his team, Freedom Racing Enterprises. They're a very small team running on a very small budget, making things work. But they're a great bunch of guys. And, you know, I want them to do well. I want them to succeed because I think they're really trying and they've got the heart that you need to have in that sport to make it work. So, yeah, but as a driving experience, awesome. It was all in one day. It was super difficult to really get used to the truck. It was so different to drive than anything I've ever driven. But the racing it's the most fun I've had racing in 8 years since I stepped into a single seater. Like, never have I had that much fun in a race since Ginetta Juniors. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would love to do it again.
What's the preparation like for that? Is that just iRacing because you've had no testing, you've never driven a stock car otherwise you just rock up and have fun?
Yeah, really, it was iRacing. That was it. I mean, I know when Dario and Hinge did theirs, they had like sim time and some testing. And then I also heard Palo at the weekend at IRP when they were asking him if he'd do it. He's like, I need to test it first. I'm like, come on, boys, just get in it and drive it. Stop being pedantic. But yeah, I mean, if they want to test it first, fine. But I think that most of the drivers in IndyCar are talented enough to jump into that series. You know, there are some really, really strong drivers in that series. I mean, I remember watching some of the guys in practice and go, ooh, he's quick. Like, he's a good driver. I'm watching him pedal it and I'm watching him drive the car in front of me. And I'm like, yeah, he knows what he's doing and he's solid. You know, so yeah, there was no preparation. There's no data. There's no onboard. There's nothing. It's simply get out there and drive, which honestly was so refreshing for me after years of single seaters in high levels where it's like data, this, that. This was just, yeah, just like drive it. What do you want to look at onboard? We don't have that. Just drive. Like, right, honestly, it was awesome from a developmental perspective of me being able to catch up. Maybe wasn't great because I just kind of had to eyeball it and just try and see what others were doing and try and do it myself. But from just a general enjoyment, it was a lot of fun. The car was really fun to drive. I really enjoyed driving the H pattern. You know, I think that I had good races with some of the drivers there. I don't think I made anyone hate me. Maybe some people dislike me after the race. There was definitely some argy-bargy, but I think it was all above board. I didn't Kevin Magnussen anyone, and I didn't want to. I'm not coming to a championship and fire someone off on a one-off race because that is not who I want to be.
Nice. And kind of just on that point of like, it was fun. Like, I always question this with drivers like Dixon, who's been doing it for a quarter of a century. Like, where does that enjoyment still come from? And you say, like, you know, all the single seat stuff is very data. Like, when you're doing this thing for so long, and I know obviously you've been through different championships and been rising and whatever, like, how do you maintain the enjoyment rather than kind of get caught up in the monotony of kind of doing the same thing? Like,
it's a good point. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I struggle with it sometimes. There's not a lot of weekends nowadays I come out going, that was a really great weekend. I had so much fun. Because fun isn't, because it was a one-off thing, I allowed myself to kind of relax a bit more and actually enjoy it. There were no expectations, and that helped. But also, it just was a good race. Like, it was a fun race. Like, we started at the back because we had I put the wheel on wrong in qualifying, so it was like this. I was going down the straight like this. I put it on wrong, and I didn't realize you could put it on wrong. So I'm like this down the straight, qualified at the back, then went forward. Then I had a speeding penalty in the pit lane, which is like I do that all the time apparently nowadays, I guess.
That's a manual limit, isn't it? Or is there a set limit?
Yeah, manual, but the thing is, it was it was a non-competitive pit stop. So that, well, it was under caution. So I didn't really think much about it. And I also left really late. So I was like, well, if I speed or don't speed, it won't impact my race. But I guess it was more for safety of the crew. And it wasn't like I was like flat down pit lane. I was still trying to go slow, but I didn't actually know where the limit was. I didn't know. So I was like, this feels all right. I feel like I'm going slow enough here. And then lo and behold, it wasn't. So anyway, went back and then went forward again, but then had to avoid a wreck, and I got grass in my radiator, so I had to they had to pull it all out because the engine was overheating. And then I went forward again. We were fighting for top 7, top 6 with like 2 to go, and then I just got nailed, and that was it. So yes, fun. But what I would say personally for me with IndyCar, no, it's not that fun. No, I don't go out there and I'm smiling every lap. No, I don't think a single driver is. I think everyone is pushed by the fact that they want to do well, and that's how, at least that's how I feel, right? And I've been that way for a very long time, where I don't feel motivated by winning. I feel motivated by not losing, because it does annoy me, and it is the bane of my existence is not winning, So it's more drive to succeed, I would say, for me at least, with IndyCar. And yeah, at times it gets brutal, and it's like, this is the worst, but I also wouldn't change it for the world. I've been asked, we should do trucks now. I'm like, no, I love IndyCar. I love IndyCar. Like, it's where I want to be. It's what I want to do. Even though I'm sitting here saying I had so much more fun in trucks, I think that's the disconnect mentally, where it's like, yeah, it was fun, but my life goal is to be able to perform at this league, in this level, at this league, at the top, and that's fulfillment for me.
Nice. And you mentioned this. You mentioned Drop Light a few minutes ago. When we were in Indy, we had the pleasure of being invited to that talk that you were kind of a part of the panel where you were speaking about kind of their influence in digital media, and some of the stuff that you guys are kind of doing together is genuinely pretty cool and kind of stuff that we don't necessarily see that much in the IndyCar space. So I'm not expecting you to give the whole kind of lecture that you gave there at that point, but maybe just concisely for people who maybe don't know about some of the stuff that you guys are doing together on that front of, some of the cool things you might see on your social media. Like, what work are you doing? Like, why are you kind of doing that together? What are the kind of brains behind it? Just talk a bit about some of the stuff that you're producing there.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, Droplight is a very new company, and they value marketing highly, right? And I think the kind of marketing they value is what a lot of the other companies in IndyCar and teams don't quite understand yet. I think when you've got these big sponsors, big name sponsors that are run by 65-year-old bald men who have been doing it for 40 years, who are very good at their job, but don't understand social media, right? I understand it because I'm young, and I have a lot of friends involved in the industry, outside of racing, inside of racing, all over. So I know it very well. I always hated it. I always hated social media. I still, to an extent, do. Like, I've always said, the day I stop racing, I would delete my Instagram. The day I don't need to have an Instagram, I'll delete it, because I don't enjoy. For me, there are more cons than pros, at least for me having it mentally or whatever. I just think that it can be a waste of time sometimes. But no, so simply we put a lot of effort, and Droplight puts a lot of money into producing good quality content. I mean, we've got really good editors, really good videographers, really good creative directors, and we try and make things that are actually good quality. That's kind of that's what we're doing now, at least, right? And I think it's very easy to go down the easy route of, like, I'm going to use the word shit posting because that's what it is. Like, really silly, easy made content that can do numbers, but from a brand perspective, it really isn't. Like, it looks very childish in my perspective, at least, right? So we've really pivoted towards that. It's just high quality content. It doesn't get 1 million views, but when you look at it, it's damn cool, and we put a lot of effort into it. We put a lot of time into it, and every one we do is thought out, planned, whether it's outfits or whether for the one we did in Nashville, or whether it's scenery, the one we did for Long Beach, the one that you saw. Oh my God, that we were out for hours shooting that. And
that was genuinely so cool. Like, that was really high value.
And so I do enjoy it. I have to schedule my time well, because I don't want it ever to take away from what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, whilst it's fun stuff to do and I enjoy doing it for Droplight, and obviously it's a sponsor obligation basically, to an extent, my job is still to race a car fast. So it's sometimes people get a negative view on it, especially in the racing industry. Oh, he's too focused on this. It's like, well, no, I'm very much focused on driving the car because that's what I love doing. This other stuff, yeah, at times it's fun, but trust me, I don't want to be making videos for a living. That's not what I want to do. Or at least myself be the forefront of it. You know me, I'm not a particularly, I don't know what the word is, exuberant person. I could never be a internet personality because I don't have the fakeness to myself to be able to do that. I'm too real, I guess. So yeah, but no, it's cool that we're able to do that, and it's cool that they care about it, and it's cool that we're able to release this content that a lot of people seem to enjoy, and it's a very high quality. It's the kind of stuff that honestly IndyCar probably needs to take a page out of the book from, really, in my opinion. So yeah.
You've really long forgotten this, but Droplight are doing a good enough job to keep you winning their Instagram followers battle with Rasmussen. So well done to them there.
Yeah, no, he's we've both, yeah, no, I've spoken about it a few times, but yeah, I think.
Oh, it's still going on.
Well, like it's. I'm sure the day he passes me, he'll text me, and I'll be like, okay, whatever. But from a social media. What's the word I'm looking for? Strategy.
I thought you were going to say influencer then.
From a social media strategy, my strategy is no longer gaining followers. That's not what we're trying to do anymore. Hence why I haven't.
Rasmussen's definitely is.
It was for a while, but he's toned back on it now a bit actually as well. I think he's gone the same way as I've gone. And if you ever do it, you'll realize you get to a certain point and you're actually like, you know what? Numbers isn't everything. It's not. It really is not everything in this space. So I'm focused a lot more on trying to show people personality because I think IndyCar does not do a good job of it. And I think if you can do that, it really helps. IndyCar is great at showing personality of, like 3 people.
I was about to say the same people the Super Bowl has every year.
We know. Pato's got a massive fan base and he's a goofy guy. We know that. Right? He's a bachelor. We get that, right? We know this. We don't need to hear it every time.
Newgarden's the perfect guy with the abs.
Low is the what So they do it for, and it makes sense. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to pretend that it's silly, but look at how Formula One does it. You've got guys that are even at the back of the grid that everyone knows everything about, and they know their personality and what they're like. And it's not that everyone at the back of the grid is like boring and dull, because I can guarantee you they're not. It's that they're not promoted in the same way that F1 is able to promote the entire field, whereas IndyCar I just think that they haven't really realized that yet, and it really does add to the series. So the more drivers that can make this kind of stuff and actually show personality and create videos on their own social media, it only does justice for them and for their team and for their sponsors. So, and for the series. I mean, yeah. So anyway, I won't blabber about social media too much, otherwise you'll forget that I'm a driver as well. But my opinion.
It's very interesting. I've just seen a tweet, by the way. The forecast for DC, according to AccuWeather at the moment, is low 90s for the whole weekend. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but that's
quite hot.
Oh, that's like I want to say like 30.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, like last serious question on driving stuff, and you've kind of already answered it. To be honest, your goal we know is a podium for the rest of the season. But are there any kind of other intangibles that you're kind of just aiming for that's maybe not like a result thing in these final six rounds but 5 weeks?
No, that's honestly it. Like I don't really like. I think if we can either maintain or gain spots in the championship, that would be good. I mean, gain really, but I'm in a bit of a no man's land right now points wise. So the only way to really claw out of that no man's land is to get a podium, or at least be consistently strong throughout the last 6 races, right? But no, I mean, it's a podium. That's really all I care about. Obviously we're going to try and do the best job we can every weekend. That's a given. I don't think there's any weekend we're going to go into going, oh, well, whatever, next weekend's fine. So, but I think we've got some good chances. And like I said, I'm looking damn hard to make sure we do get a podium, because I will definitely end the season very unsatisfied without having any kind of achievement. Last year we got Rookie of the Year and pole. This year with our qualifying struggles, not to be a pessimist, but I don't know like we're going to be getting pole this anytime soon, because we just don't have the pace in qualifying. It's just isn't adding up for us. And the chances we've had at pole have kind of gone. Really, was the road course was the only time that this year that we've actually had a car in qualifying that can compete at that level. But we keep pushing. But yeah, for me, podium. There really isn't much else that I have on my list to do. A win would be better, but I think podium is the goal first. Maybe podium does mean win. Who knows?
So just a few lighter ones to finish off. We've obviously had the World Cup in the last month or so, and it's been out in the States. Like, what was that? Oh, you went to a match, didn't you, actually?
I did.
I remember this because you were wearing a Raheem Sterling shirt, and it kind of raised, why are you wearing a Sterling shirt?
It's a shirt that I've had for years, and it was the only England top that I had. I'd ordered, there's this company that I bought this really cool, like, England set from, and it was like hand stitched.
Yes, I saw this. You put it in your story, didn't you?
Yeah, really cool. Like, I loved it, but it didn't get there in time. So I was like, okay, well, I'll wear my Sterling top, right? So, which I like Sterling. I mean, he was a bit overrated, but man, he was funny. He ran funny. I like the way he runs.
The dinosaur run.
Dinosaur run. So anyway, but no, the match was fun. It was very sweet actually, because I was sitting next to. We were playing Panama, I believe. Were we playing Panama? Yeah, I think it was Panama. The last group stage for England.
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to this lady who was from Panama. And she was, I don't know, maybe.
Was she in the wrong end, or were you in the wrong end?
There wasn't really like it was kind of mixed and matched. But it wasn't super like. The fun thing was, she was like, we just want to score one goal, just one goal. We haven't scored it yet at all this tournament. And Panama never scored a goal during the tournament.
Oh.
Which sucks. But like, once we had scored 2, I was like, all right, I'm now cheering for you guys because I want you guys to score one goal because of you. But it was a fun thing. I think the coolest thing for me, which I didn't realize I would appreciate, was being in a stadium, hearing the national anthem. And obviously, I haven't heard the British national anthem in so long because I haven't been in England. Plus, we don't really sing it ever. It's not like the American national anthem. And B, I've never had it to God Save the King. Because obviously, since I left England, it was the Queen. And then the Queen died about a year after I left. That was quite cool for me, actually, to kind of be in that situation with 40,000 other Brits singing it. And I was like, I didn't really think that would leave an impact on me, but it did. So I enjoyed that. But as a whole, yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to see Americans have their take on soccer or football, whatever. They all seem to think offside is the dumbest rule in the world, and I have to try and explain to them why it's actually not dumb at all.
If you look at American sports rules like goaltending and basketball and all this.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. But at the same time, to be fair, if there wasn't goaltending, you would just get a guy that's like 7'2" and just stand there the entire time. And so, but you know, it's been interesting to see. And I think everyone's enjoyed it. I think everyone's opened their eyes a bit more to football and how big it is. And it really does bring the world together in a really cool way. It's been nice to see how Americans have reacted to the Scottish fans, especially. That was cool. You know, the Norwegian fans as well. The British fans, in some ways, you know, we have our tendencies, some of the fans in England, to not be particularly the best guests, but some are all right. But no, it was cool, and it was nice that it was obviously in a country that I live in, so I had the ability to go do that.
And it's interesting you mentioned the anthem thing. That's one of the biggest things I will remember from May was, and I don't know whether it has an impact on you, like, obviously we're British, but hearing the anthem and all of that stuff as you're kind of on the grid before the 500 was like, that was pretty cool. Like, I think the things was the taps when like 350,000 people go silent, but then the anthem as well. And it's like, holy crap. Like, you find yourself almost getting emotional that you don't really know why, because there's just so much passion. Like,
yeah, 100%. I agree. I think the first times that I heard it, I definitely, you know, the hairs on my arms raised a little bit with all the amount of people there and singing it. Nowadays, it's become so routine that it's like I have a routine around the anthem. Like I know when it starts and know when it ends because I get like a minute by minute schedule, and like I have like my routine around it. For me now, that is just a time where I have to be somewhere for a certain amount of time. Like I have to be in that place for 3 minutes. All I'm thinking about is like, okay, the race, or you know, run to the restroom quickly, but then jump in the car. Like, so now it's more of a routine thing. But you know, the 500 is always special. It's always pretty cool. So yeah.
So last time we spoke to you, we started the competition of what's the weirdest thing you could sign across the course of the year. I messaged you in May, I think, and there had been no update. Has there been anything so far? listeners let us down?
They may have. I'm trying to think. I signed a mobility scooter that was in the shape of the Oscar Mayer weenie.
Oh my god, that is so
and
cool.
A sticker that said Big Wiener Club, and I was like,
oh, that's pretty. That's quite cool. That's quite
that one
something.
was a really fun.
But is the person rocking that listening to the podcast? I don't think so.
It wouldn't be like viewers. Is there anything else that was super weird that I signed? I don't think there was anything super out of the ordinary. I've definitely had some interesting fan interactions, but nothing weird that I signed.
Yeah, we had another good friend of the show, Carson and Indy Next. He signed a cookie. I don't know if that's a regular occurrence for you, but
no,
that's a weird one we've got.
I don't think I've signed anything that strange. I'm trying to think. Clearly, it wasn't strange enough for me to remember, so I'm going to say no.
Up your game,
Work
guys.
to do, listeners. Come on. So still got 5 weekends. Yes, 5 weekends to do it. So there we are. Plenty. I was going to get you to sign something slightly odd in Indianapolis, but I never got around to it. So
Yes, we just had a pineapple sitting in the fridge for 2 weeks.
because we had mentioned that as a joke, and I was like, I'll stumble across you, but it never seemed like quite a good time to come up to you to sign a pineapple.
There's never a good time to whip out a pineapple after the sun. I'm sorry. We're just going to have to rip the band-aid off and do it.
So next year, I'm going to have to think of something more inventive to get you to sign at a moment where you least expect it.
Okay. Just don't knock on my door at 7 a.m. and be like, hello, sign this, please.
Oh. You won't get me up at 7 a.m.
Yeah, no.
There's Archie will testament to.
I'll look forward to it.
One final question. I think one of my favourite stories of the year last time was your sighting by the Apple employee when you were getting your phone repaired.
Yeah.
Any interesting sightings, unexpected sightings? Do you get spotted around Indianapolis, really?
I haven't had any super interesting. That's still my most interesting one. I did go to a bar after the 500 with a couple friends of mine who were in town just for the 500 with me. And they're like, let's go to a bar. And I was like, I don't really want to, but I will. And I don't know why I felt this way at the time. I must have had an inkling. I don't know what it was. It's not like I walk into any bar and everyone's like, oh my God. That doesn't happen, right? But I, for whatever reason, was like, okay, I kind of want to go a little bit incognito because there was a race coming up Detroit pretty soon. I wasn't drinking, but I was just there with them. So I put on a hoodie and a hat, and I was kind of intentionally hiding. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but it felt like the entire bar recognized me. There was some that I knew through racing, they were mechanics at an old team I used to race for, or there was one other driver in there in Indy Next or whatever. But there are also people that I'm I definitely have not met you, but you're speaking to me about racing. So you must be a fan. There's no other way because I would recognize who you are. So that one was interesting, but mainly because I was intentionally trying not to get seen because I didn't want to be seen in a bar 3 days before a race because that has not a good look. Yeah, nothing super interesting this year, I wouldn't say. It's been such a busy year, man, that when I'm not on the track, I am MIA. I don't go out and do it. I'm not in a public setting. If you see me outside, in a public area, it's once in a blue moon, because when I'm not racing, I am hibernating. Honestly, when I'm at home, I'm either in my house or in the World Cup. There is no in between.
Louis, that's great as always, a fantastic insight. And I'm sure we will definitely leave you a rest between now and the end of the season. I'm sure we'll catch up some point after Laguna Seca and as you head into your off season. So yeah, thanks once again.
Cool. Appreciate it, guys.